Hunting boots are a critical component of any successful hunt. Whether walking a short distance to your blind or trudging miles through rugged terrain, your feet are carrying the load. Without the right boots, you could give up early and lose out on that trophy just over the ridge. At Midway USA, we make selecting boots for your next hunt easier. With just a few clicks of a mouse, you can decide on what's important, like waterproofing, insulation, size, width, and savings. For just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors, check out midwayusa.com.
All right, guys, welcome back to episode 231. This is going to be a great episode. I'm actually super pumped. It's been a long time coming, Steve. What do you say, bro?
Dude, I am fired up after that recording.
We were blessed by the presence of Mr. Troy Pottenger. We had a great time with Troy, learning about mock scrapes, the big woods bucks, and how it really relates to us here in the East Coast and New England in itself, I guess. It was awesome. It was a great conversation. I'd have to say it was probably one of my favorite podcasts, and Troy is just an unbelievable, amazing person. I'm super happy to have him on, man. So it was good. It was really good. We're gonna do just
kind of left me speechless there, but I tell you what, how long was that podcast?
Almost 2 hours. Yeah.
I feel like we could have done another hour easily.
I know.
Time.
I know. We really honestly could. Since there's so much great information and so much going on with Troy, I say we just do the sponsors and we just get right into it, because there's no need to listen to us. There's no words to be said after having such a great person on. And what are we going to talk about? How we went shed hunting? How we got a trail cam picture? Let's just get on with Troy. So first off, we are title sponsored by Huntworth gear. Guys, if you haven't gotten your Durham pants yet or your early season turkey gear, now's the time to go and get it. There's still a 25 to 50% sale across the board over at Huntworth gear. Nor'easter game calls, nor'eastergamecalls.com. There's a ton of pot calls, mouth calls, you name it, we got it. Go on over there, get them, maybe even a grunt tube for that season. Now's the time to get that stuff. Do not miss out on it. You definitely want to have all that stuff for this upcoming turkey season. Latitude Outdoors, latitudeoutdoors.com. Some great stuff coming from those guys. Now's the time to start building your climb for that mobile season, this upcoming season. Now's the time to get that stuff. All of it is in stock and will be, shipped out within the week. So now's the time to get on that mobile hunting gear. And last but not least, Bowhunters United. The advocates for us as bowhunters. Bowhuntersunited.com is a free membership for fighting for your right as a bowhunter. So what do you think, Stevie? Let's keep this short, sweet, and simple. Let's get Troy on the line. I'm just amazed by this podcast. I think both of us had our wheels turning as far as what we could do this season to try and kill our big whitetail that we're after. And I think he honestly, he checked off the boxes for all of us.
Yeah, get out your notebooks, get it ready. If you can't, I know he's in northern Idaho, but if you can't pull some information out of this that you can apply wherever you're whitetail hunting, you better start the podcast over and listen again, because there's plenty of information in here.
So if you're from New England or, on the East Coast, it's just, as we talked about, it's the same latitude. We're hunting the same type of bucks in the same type of ground as he is in the West Coast. Like, it's picture perfect.
Only big difference is elevation, right? We're on the coast, so we're lower elevation, but latitude lines, they're the same. And like I said, there's a ton of info here. My wheels were turning the entire time thinking about situations and scenarios that I find in my woods that I 100% will be applying and deploying very soon in my woods.
All right, man. Enough. Let's get Troy on the line. Outdoor Drive Podcast. All right, guys, we are back on the phone with the myth, man, and the legend, Troy Pottenger. How are you, man?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, we really appreciate you jumping on, man. I know it's kind of crazy, and deer season's kind of winding down, and I think now it's time to have fun. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm absolutely digging this time of year. I'm already scouting.
Yeah, is that a big thing for you, postseason scouting and kind of getting back boots on the ground and
Yeah, it's probably bigger than the actual hunting. I mean, I don't kill if I don't pretty much go year round scouting.
yeah, I know like Ryan, like we had Ryan Glittinger on a couple weeks ago, and he's a big postseason scouter, and that's how he finds most of his successes by that postseason scouting.
Yeah, for me, guys, just for your listeners, Northern Idaho, Northeast Washington, Northwest Montana, Canada. I live in the center of that, and I'm about 45 minutes to an hour away from all of those places. And I live in a habitat that's 1,500-foot valley floors up to 9,000 foot peaks. So for me, the country that I hunt is so vast. I'm not sure. I'm not sure a lot of listeners, unless they've been out west, have a true mental picture how vast this country is. Not to mention the elevation with the mountains. That if you flattened it out, it's about 3 times as much ground. If you flattened it all, so all that to say, because of the vastness, the the ability for deer to live wherever the hell they want, to get away from any kind of pressure and find a hidey hole, is unlimited for them. So yeah, I have to do a ton of scouting to try to find the kind of deer that I want to kill.
Absolutely, man. Well, why don't we turn this thing right in four-wheel drive? Why don't you tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do?
Uh, yeah, my name's Troy Pottenger, native Northern Idahoan. I say Northern because Central Idaho and Southern Idaho are a lot different, way different habitats, wide open. I'm up in some of the probably most famous and heaviest logging country in the West. So timber
Right.
everywhere. Our country gets a ton of rain and a ton of water in the Pacific Northwest, so we grow timber really fast. The underbrush, the ground cover is just crazy thick, and then you got a huge canopy of coniferous timber covering it for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles in every direction. Uh, Beautiful country, lots of rivers, lots of lakes, lots of streams. I grew up in North Idaho, guys, and lived in Montana when I went to college. So the only 2 states I've ever lived in. And as a young guy, really young, teenager, young, even before my teen years, in a nutshell, I fell in love with whitetails. They've always had my heart, and I've always loved watching them. And I just fell in love with them at a young age, and was kind of, it was kind of, mystical to me just how incredibly cagey they were to survive grizzlies, lions, wolves. Every predator in the world lives out here, every apex predator. So it just blew my mind that they could live and some of them could get to old age on this vast public forest land.
Now, and the thing is, like, when you talk about the West, a lot of the times guys don't really care for the whitetails. Like, everybody's trying to hunt mule deers, elk, so on and so forth, and like the mule deer is not a big talked about thing out west.
Yeah, the whitetail isn't. It is now.
Right.
It is now. It's, in today's social media world, the last 10, 15 years, even 20 years, it started getting people that are whitetail guys were starting to pay attention to it. And you got to remember the Wensels.
Yes.
They came from out here. The Wenzel brothers aren't very far originally. They're not, they're one of them is back in Montana now, I believe, but they went off to Iowa to chase the Iowa dream. But the Wensels aren't very far from me, guys.
So
Not very far at all.
let's talk about
from
that.
From where they originated, the Wenzel brothers are not that far from me.
So it's funny is Barry Wenzel actually, so here in Connecticut, Barry Wenzel shot his first whitetail in my hometown.
Unbelievable.
Yep. And they're legends here in New England, like huge legends.
Yep, those guys, those guys, for me, and I'm younger than them, obviously, they were these guys that had been out in the Montana area and lived in Montana, which isn't far from me. I'm in northern Idaho. Those guys spent a lot of time in river bottoms, hunting the beautiful Montana river bottoms and whatnot. Um, I don't know exactly how much time they spent bow hunting big whitetails in the mountains, but I can tell you this. I know pretty close to where they were in the past, and there were big mountain whitetails around, so maybe they have. I just haven't heard them talk about it. I know most of the footage they put out was always river bottom type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is the river bottoms are a very target rich environment. And they really were back in the day when they were killing those big river bottom bucks. The mountains for me, talking about my past, and I had no other place to hunt than the mountains because I lived in them and I've lived in them my whole life. My father was a logger. So not only did I live in them, my dad worked in them. And as a family growing up, I logged alongside of my father. I started at 13 and started sawing. So my entire life has been because of my family, where we worked and where we lived. I've lived in the mountains. I mean, I didn't even hardly come out of the mountains in the summers ever, all through school. So the mountains have always been my home. And then we'd come out of the mountains once a week, stay in the mountains all week and work, and then come out on the weekends in the summers. Then I'd go to school and then hunt the mountains all through the school year outside of sports. And I just fell in love with whitetails that lived in the high mountains. I mean, we're talking high elevation whitetails.
So you said that you grew up as a logger, your dad was a logger. Like, and just to kind of paint the picture, like, what exactly are they logging? Like, is it like pine plantation type logging like they would in northern, New England, or is it something different?
Well, this country out here is big logging country for a reason. We've got about every conifer species you can think of. Tamarack, which are western larch, Douglas fir, white fir. We've got cedars that are 10 feet around at the butt, um, giant cedar trees. Other species, we have pine, big bull pine, 4 or 5 footers, 6 footers. A lot of our timbers, a lot of our big timber, our western larch, our big Doug firs, a lot of that stuff can get up to 180 feet tall, the big stuff. We're talking big shit. We're talking, if you look at the history of the United States and you look at where a lot of the big timber from the West came from, it's out here in the 3 states that I hunt whitetails in. So with all that to say, it's all coniferous. There's zero mast trees. There's zero maples and oaks or anything like that. There's none of that. It's all conifer timber. And it's awesome wood that makes, for building, it's built a lot of homes in America. And that's what I grew up logging my whole life. My mom was a school teacher. Dad was a logger. And it's funny, my dad had a biology degree, but he logged because back in those days, you made a lot more money logging than you could with a biology degree. So my dad was a sharp dude that went to college. He went to Boise State University. My mom went to college at the University of Idaho. My mom was a teacher, but we just lived in the mountains. We owned a little ranch. We always had cattle. We always had horses. So I just grew up in the mountains around animals my entire life.
And does that type of area that's a tough area to kind of hunt though? Like, as far as like trying to find the whitetail, like there's like, for guys like us, like we're always hunting in oak flats or, trying to find that type of food source where when you're in a conifer rich environment, that's a tough area to try and find whitetails.
Yeah, there's nothing easy about hunting these mountains. And I've purposely hunted all over the country, guys, so I could compare and contrast. And I've never found anything anywhere tougher than a mountain whitetail with a bow and arrow in my mountains. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that to toot my horn. I just haven't found anything tougher yet as far as obstacles. I mean, the apex predators are a nightmare, a pain in the ass to you because they move your deer. Your whitetails have unlimited cover, security cover resources to go to. If they want to move 5-10 miles in a day, no biggie. I mean, how many places do you hunt whitetails that migrate? My deer migrate.
You don't.
Yeah, I hunt whitetail deer that migrate like mule deer out of the mountains because of so much snow. So yeah, there's some obstacles, but on the other hand, it's probably one of the most beautiful places in the world to hunt. Ton of freedom, no fences, huge public lands in multiple states. Um, I had a guy ask me the other day on a podcast. He said, "Troy, so pretty much anybody could come and do this if they were just, willing to put in the work." And I was like, I just stopped for a second and thought of the last 40 years of my life and thought, well, it's not that easy. It's There's a reason why you don't hear about many dudes bow hunting whitetails on public land out here or wanting to make this a destination. And it's because of the obstacles you got to overcome to even find a deer, let alone, my goals are 5+ year old whitetails every year. And I try to hunt a buck that I would consider a buck of a lifetime every year with a bow. That's my goals. Now, was I doing that when I was your age or younger? No. That's a ladder that you climb and that I've really enjoyed. And along the way, the lessons that I've learned getting my ass kicked have been unbelievable. Like, it's just been so good for me, being so humbling, because the deer have taught me more about how to hunt them than any other entity that I've ever dove into. The deer themselves, I really, really focused on what the deer were teaching me as I got into my 20s and 30s. Like, I knew that's what I had to do, and I had to plug my ears to all the outside noise of how somebody somewhere else told me how to hunt a deer. And I just really started tapping into what my whitetails were teaching me. And it was because of the scouting, the surveillance, the sacrifices I made my entire life to not do a lot of other things, just to go figure out a deer or find a deer.
So I guess one of my questions is, like, when you're trying to find these deer and hone in on them, what type of are I guess when you're starting, are you starting like topographically, like trying to find a certain area or a certain point that you're trying to work off of to see if those deer are holding there? Because, like, you're looking at a vast area of just thousands and thousands of acres. Like, how are you pinpointing it in to try and find where these deer are and they're migrating to and moving because of these apex predators? Like, what are you looking for?
Obviously, that's evolved over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten better at it. I was on maps the other day. I run Google Earth and I cross-reference it with my base map, which is on X or anything. I use two big screens. First of all, I did a little math on a piece of paper the other day of what I was looking at. And it was 7.5 million acres. Yeah.
So Connecticut?
Yeah, our whole state.
Honestly, guys, areas as big as a state. Yes. So you look at that and it's really daunting, especially to someone that is coming out here. And because of the history and the years I've learned to pick out places, I stick with some important keys for big country. And I hunt backcountry whitetails, which are non-ag, all mountain country only. And then I hunt mountain whitetails that have ag in the bottoms. So I hunt two different types of whitetails. But the common denominator is both of those types of whitetails have mountains to hide out on. The ag-based whitetails are definitely easier to pattern compared to a backcountry, just because of the vastness, or just find. But easy still difficult, if you will. So when I dive into, like, for example, I just jumped into a new area. When you have over 7 million of acres to explore in 3 states, and pretty soon it's going to be 10 million when I go to Canada, of crown ground that I'm going to get into. And yeah, in Alberta, you can get a hunter host buddy, or you can have a guide. It's still going to be similar. All that to say, I start with habitat, security cover, elevation that makes sense for a big buck with the wind. I look for everything that an old whitetail needs to survive year round with predators, number one. and where he can migrate to and survive the winter and then come back. And then I look at the pressure from humans, but I put predators first and how he's going to survive them, because he's only got to dodge me for a couple months. So I put all that into play, the best habitat for him and the best wind and thermal protection for him. And I dive into those places that a buck can be an old hermit, hang out. He's got it figured out after 5 years or 6 years, but he can still monitor all the doe family groups, usually lower in elevation, if you will. And then I put those pieces of the puzzle together, guys, and then I dive in, boots on the ground, hundreds of miles every spring, trail cameras, because it's so vast and so big you can't glass. And obviously I did a lot of this before trail cameras were even around, back in the 80s and 90s. So that really taught me woodsmanship way back then, and obviously logging and working in the mountains with my dad. And I need to throw this into, my grandfather was had a pack string outfitters. We spent, when I was 5 to 10 years old, I basically got to live in the Frank Church Wilderness. Look it up. One of the biggest wildernesses in the lower 48. So I've spent my whole life in the backcountry on horses, living in the mountains, learning how to hunt elk with my dad. And then once I got old enough, I jumped into the whitetails. So you take all of that, you put it into perspective, and then you go find these pockets in this giant country that has everything a big whitetail needs to survive the predators first, survive hunters, survive easy access versus hard access, plus give that buck the feed and security that he needs to make it. And that's where I dive into. Then I figure out all the does, all the doe family groups, where they like to live, where they hang. And then I unravel how he monitors everything, predators, humans, doe family groups, really pay attention to how specific bucks use the terrain and area and the wind to maneuver it and stay alive. And you throw all of that in, guys, and then you go try to find one.
Now,
Just like
yeah, that's simple, right? No
Simple.
big deal. What is that?
Okay,
Yeah.
we're done here.
Yeah, okay, it was good. No,
Guys,
we did this in 15
you guys
minutes.
know that you can't talk about this shit unless you've done it. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
I can't make this up. I can't
Right.
make it up.
All right, so I've got a couple questions. I've been sitting here listening. So we kind of skimmed over food sources. So you don't, aside from your couple spots, where it does have ag in the bottom, you're far from ag, and you said you don't have a lot of mash trees. So are these deer
Zero.
just woody browse? They're just living on woody browse, or what's their primary food source? Like, what would be the ideal, optimal food source for you to find?
Have you guys ever been out west into the North Country I'm in?
No.
I have, but no, I wasn't hunting. But I spent
Okay.
5 days on horseback in northern Wyoming, southern, like Little Bighorn Mountains.
Okay, so take those little bighorns
Yeah.
and add about 10 times the amount of brush
Okay.
and rain. Almost think about the Pacific coast, but inland.
Mm-hmm.
And add in all of this woody browse, and I can get into things like red stem cynosis and ocean spray and all that. We probably have the best browse species you've ever seen. We have in this country, because of logging, thank God for logging, we have unbelievable overgrown, old clear cuts from back in the 1900s that have the most incredible cover in them now because they were replanted, and the grass, the grasses, the natural grasses, all the browse, the huckleberries. I mean, you name it. We got plants out here. And I've said this before, talking to the Corps of Engineers out here, we have native plants out here that grow wild that are between 15 and 25, 27% protein. They're wild. And a whitetail out here does not have to go to a destination. If he's in the backcountry in the woods, he can pretty much eat for miles in every direction he wants to walk. And it's because of the combination, guys, of habitat, logging that's been done in the past and even present, the amount of rain we get, we're just so green out here, it's ridiculous. Up north, you got to get up north to get real green, and we are green.
Right.
There's endless food. It's so good. Here's a good example. It is so freaking good a feed that all the cattle ranchers, you probably never heard of this, guys, they release their cows into our national forests because it's better feed than the farm fields in the bottom.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I was doing in the little Bighorn Mountains. I was pushing cows up into the mountains for the summertime because it's like 10, 15 degrees cooler up there. And they would just put them out in the mountains for the summer and then push them back down to slaughter in the fall.
Yeah. And they do amazing in the summers out here.
You're right.
And the deer are 60 to 70% browsers.
Right.
When they have it available to them. The deer out here are incredible. They're built like brick shit houses. They don't carry a ton of fat, but they're just built because they run the mountains. They're just buff. And they live in a real cold climate with great native feed. And then what they do when they get snowed out, guys, they get 3 to 5, 7, 8, 9. I got some spots that get 10 feet of snow. As soon as that big snows come, as soon as it starts rubbing on their belly, then they bail. And it's intrinsic in their DNA to migrate, and they head to the rivers. They head to the river bottoms, and they head to lower elevation.
And that's kind of equivalent to what we kind of deal with here in northern New England. It seems to be kind of the same, where they're logging a ton. There's green grass, there's browse, there's a ton of great stuff for them, and that's where they kill the big whitetails. As we were kind of talking off air, is the Adirondack Mountains, the northern Maines, like it's one and the same latitude as you are hunting, just not as crazy in elevation as you have to deal with, but one and the same. Kind of the same base layers.
Yeah, and if you draw a line from where I hunt across the United States to you guys, where you guys might even be a hair higher in latitude.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest obstacles my deer face out here is elevation and predators. The apex predators are here. I mean, the biggest deer that I believe I have alive right now is smack dab in the middle of grizzly country. Yeah, and wolves and mountain lions.
And that's something we have to deal with constantly. Getting into the big mountains is having to deal with apex predators that aren't only going after the deer that you're after, but they're also coming after you.
Yeah, and they're not, be very candid about this. They don't really want to screw with us that much, especially in Idaho, because we can hunt everything but a grizzly. But when you get over into Washington, where everything's protected a little more, they're a little more brave. Montana, a lot of grizzlies. Wolves, though, are everywhere. But I'll tell you what the scary animal is all the mountain lions.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know they're there. And I've had more encounters with mountain lions and black bears than probably anything that have been negative that I've had to fix. So part of hunting out here is you get home safe to your family every night, and you go into the woods with your shit wired tight, and you make sure you're prepped and prepared. I never go in without packing. And the one time in my life I did not pack my 10 millimeter in my life, it was a 45 back then. The one time I did it, since I've been married and had children, I had my son with me and a friend, and we went to check a trail camera just off the edge of a logging road. No big deal. We ran into a screwed up mountain lion that was hungry. The one damn time I didn't pack my gun. And we literally had to hit him in the face with sticks and rocks to get him to leave us alone. And I'm not shitting you, and it scared the hell out of me because I had my little boy with me. So you always go into the mountains thinking about how healthy your vehicle is, how it can handle everything it needs to. And when I say go into the mountains, sometimes it's 20 miles, 30 miles off the pavement. You always make sure you're packing, and you just be very vigilant and very keen and aware of everything around you. And you're pretty well off then. But every now and then them suckers show up right in your lap, and you got to be calm, but be prepared and not be unprepared.
So you going in the mountains just like us, have you ever had those one-off situations, like that one situation where you're just like, I don't know what to do? Like, just like that near-death experience, I guess, like that crazy one-off story?
I think the one that bothers me the most is when I fucked up and didn't have a gun with my son,
Yeah.
because that's me being a piss poor father and being lazy. My gun was in my pickup.
Oh.
That one really bothered me because
Mm.
I thought, oh, it's just a short walk down to this camera. It's a quarter mile, 400 yards, and it's right off the corner of a big logging road. So I thought, oh, no biggie, we'll just go. Other than that, I've always been prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've always been prepared my entire life, even since I was 10 and 11, my dad wouldn't let me go in the woods without a 44 or a 357 in the old days. And growing up on horseback, even when I was younger and hunting the back country on my grandpa's horses with my dad, every man, even bow hunting, always had a pistol on their side.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what you do out here. As far as oh shit moment, do I think my life's in danger? I don't think so. It might have been a couple times, but I always had a firearm with me that, for example, I had a pack of wolves come in on me one night when I was boning out a big whitetail, and it was in the dark, and I yelled and screamed at them, and they just kept howling and moving at me. And I was boning this whitetail out with a headlamp and packing him out on one trip, heavy pack. But you got to bone them out, no bones, just meat, cape, antlers. And I was working on him, and this pack of wolves came in on me, and it didn't really even bother me because I hear them a lot, but it didn't bother me till they got real close. And then I started screaming at them and yelling at them, and they didn't leave, and they kept coming. And I could hear them talking to each other and growling, and every now and then they'd howl. Pretty soon they're 60, 70, 80 yards from me in the pitch dark. I throw my headlamp out there and look around, and as soon as I saw my first set of eyes way off in the timber, I got a glimpse of them. I was like, I've had enough of this shit. So I just took my 10 out and made a bunch of noise with it, and they left. That's a hairy situation if you're not packing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've had mountain lions as close as 8 to 10 yards in my lap when I'm bow hunting elk off the ground, and I've tried to turn and shoot them. And as soon as they see me as a human and not an elk, because I'm talking like an elk,
right.
they bailed. I've been fortunate there. They bailed. Wow. Who's to say one isn't going to grab me someday, and I got to be prepared to shoot him, pull my pistol, and get it done. Who's to say that won't happen? And then the one that really, I've never had a bad encounter yet, but the one that probably spooks me the most is a grizzly. Because if a grizzly gets a hold of you before you can do anything, you're probably dead.
And going back on that cat moment with your son, is a lot of the times in the stories that I've heard or videos that I've seen is that they start to kind of key in on the children, and that's what they watch and they always pay attention to is the children, the smaller human beings. Where like when you tree them, when there's ever a kid there, they eye in on them and that's their main focus. So that's got to be a bone-chilling experience for you being in that situation. Like,
yeah, I was not very happy with myself on that. Luckily, my buddy John was with me, and John hit that cat right in the face hard with a big stick or a rock. I can't remember. And that cat shook his head. And he was at 15 feet then or 20 feet. He could have jumped on us. And he was a big cat that looked skinny. Like he looked hungry. Yeah. And that kind of brought that cat to reality a little bit when we cracked him. And we had hit him in the body with other stuff. And we're just like, fuck, we're ready to fight. I mean, I was ready to fight for my life, for my kid. Luckily we hit him good. John hit my buddy John. I'll give him the credit. John smoked him. And then he shook his head and he literally just turned real slow and walked away.
Ugh, I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't imagine, Troy. I couldn't.
So guys, I think the biggest thing to say here is when you're walking in, that was in the daylight. All of these are in the daylight. I hike in and hike out all the time in the dark. Other than the wolf thing at night, every other experience I've shared with you here is daylight stuff. It gets real different when it's dark. And a lot of my hikes are a mile on foot out. A lot of them. Or over a mile in the dark.
Jeez. Wow.
What is your sidearm of choice, Troy?
What?
What's your sidearm of choice?
I've got, you guys will like this. I've got I got pretty serious about it after that cat.
Yeah.
I've got when I'm scouting now, I've got a SFAR short, a small frame 308, packing 20 all the time. Trust me, I'll fight a grizzly with that thing.
Yeah.
Hunting season, not packing an AR. I'm not packing that 308 because I'm a bow hunter. 10 millimeter on the side, 15 plus 1, 2 clips.
Glock 10
I
millimeter.
really like the 10. I really like the 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glock.
I'm running a Springfield XD.
Solid.
My boy Ty has a 45.
You need to have those
I
big
have
rounds.
I have a few more rounds. He's got a bigger caliber. Yeah.
I want to snap back into the whole like, terrain type thing, because now once you start to get into that terrain that you want, like, how are you pinpointing? Are you hunting one specific buck, or is there a couple of deer that you have your eye on, or are you on that one deer only?
I play the long game with all my bucks. People are going to say, raise? What the hell is he talking about? I raise my bucks from when they're 2.5 years old, when they settle into an area and I find them and I see the genetics and I go, okay, this dude's got a chance. He's just got to give me 3 years. I raise them on my scrapes and I monitor them over the years. And I would say about 10 to 15% of the real good 2.5-year-olds make it. 10 or 15 max. Some areas, none of them. So this long game is a conditioning thing where I really key in on natural deer-built community scrapes, and then I play a very aggressive game with mock scrapes. So, guys, let's say I move into a brand new area. If I pick up a tank right away, that's a target to me, I'm all over him. I move into a really good area with some great 2 or 3-year-olds, then I condition. And I just keep them happy and wanting to use my setups. Either I'm over marking existing killer community scrapes that are already there, or I'm placing very similar built mocks that look just like what the deer love in that area for their communities. I mimic that. I build it for them. I put multiple deer profiles in it, and I throw a new group of deer at these bucks and the older bucks in the area. So the whole game is to condition and trap them like a trapper would with scent. And scrapes are my game in the big woods. Now, when I hunt states like Washington where they allow to bait, I have to put feed out, and I do it, and then I build a triangle with my big scrapes to where a big buck feels safe at my scrape, but probably won't go over 40, 50 yards away where the does are at on some alfalfa, if you will. So if I'm hunting a bait state, I build the triangle. If I'm hunting a state, no feeding at all, like Idaho, Montana, I hunt those big scrapes and I'm just off. All of my setups are off the edge wind. I usually have some type of terrain barrier that protects me, exit and entry. I mean, that's all thought out before I ever hang a tree stand, before I ever build a scrape.
Is that one of the reasons why, say you find a natural community scrape, if it's in a bad location for you, like say no access or you never get a good wind or thermals for that scrape, is that a situation where you're just going to make your own scrape in a better spot for you to hunt?
Absolutely. I move those big bucks. It's in their DNA to cover those does. And those older bucks they're the boss man in the area. They're the guys that have been breeding certain does for a couple of years already. So I will move a buck if the existing, meaning the natural scrape, just doesn't work for me. And I can usually figure out an entry and exit to pretty much about everything. But yes, if I've got a way more favorable finger ridge 100 yards away in the mountains, 100 yards is nothing to a deer. They're going to check both them scrapes. I'll start moving the doe family groups up on it. The bucks will follow. Or a lot of times for me, the oldest, best bucks I find, and it's usually they're the best because they're the oldest, So they happen to have the headgear to go with it. They overmark me and are more territorial on my new scrapes than any animal. Then the does follow suit, which is pretty wicked when you can get the best buck in the area on you like that because he's so territorial. I rarely find bucks in the big mountains that aren't breeders. And it's just because there's not a lot of them. They got those ones that have survived have been doing the work on the does for 3 or 4 years too. Mm-hmm. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do move a lot of bucks. I move a lot of deer on purpose. Yes. Why not? Why not move them if you can? Absolutely. That's my game. I shouldn't say that's my game. That's an important aspect of being more efficient on killing.
Right. Yep. Now, with that being said, if you go into a particular area, you find a natural made community scrape right on a point, you've got good access, the wind works, the thermal works, you're just going to rock out with what they put there for you, and then you're just going to spruce it up with your synthetics and hunt what they already put there for you.
Yeah, and you obviously find it. I've got some incredible community scrapes guys that are over 20 years old. Killed multiple big deer that you see on the wall behind me. Maybe one every 3 to 5 years off of it. Because I'm playing the long game, I'm waiting for them to get old and big and praying that they survive the public lands and the predators. But yeah, the game for me, people ask me this a lot. Troy, is it 50-50? Is it 30-70? What is it? I would say in the last 15 years, I get real aggressive with old bucks, and most of the bucks I want to kill that I'm targeting, I kill outside of the rut. So I play this game with them that I never heard of anybody doing ever. And I started doing this about 2 decades ago. When I was 33, I'm 54. When I was 33, I found what I thought was the Idaho state record, and I killed him first day I hunted him. But I found him in April from a shed. And then I found him in June by monitoring and finding him. But when I killed him the very first day I hunted, and people have no idea that in June, I put that scrape on him, and he was just on it. He was like, this is the reaction I saw on that old deer. Giant, big Idaho buck, like as big as they get out here, pretty much for a typical. As soon as I built those scrapes, I overmarked some existing that he had, but I put one more out where I needed to kill him based on the wind and my entry and exit. I did that in June. As soon as I did that, he was on it like a string. He had never been hunted that way. He had never had new deer move into his area that he didn't know. So he started inspecting me, trying to find these deer. So I'm just becoming more deer to him.
Right.
And it's natural for him living there. He was aged at 8.5. So it was natural for him, guys. 7.5 or 8.5 is what the biologist told me. So I'll throw that in there so I'm exact. Between 7 or 8, biologist said he's there. He acted, and I got to watch him a lot. Being a teacher, I take my summers off. Well, I don't, I work, but I set my schedule to where I can monitor my deer. When I'm doing my logging and construction, I set my schedules up perfect for hunting deer too and scouting. Anyway, all that to say, watching him address me, what I made for him, and I didn't screw it up and I didn't get my human scent in there. The first day I hunted him, I killed him right there. And that was September 1st.
Okay.
So what did I do? Played the game, put it right in his face, added extra. Now, I've killed multiple amazing bucks, some of the best I've ever killed. The last 2 years, both of them, growing up on my scrapes for 3 years,
right,
4 years. So they get comfortable in the daylight because I don't screw it up when they're young.
So, and when you're doing this, so say you're going in to build this scrape and you're taking over a community scrape, or we'll say, building another scrape off of that community scrape in these big mountains. And one of the things that we find in some of these big, vast areas is those deer will only come around every 3, 4, 5 days, right? In their big loop. When you're starting to get them on them community scrapes, how often are they getting onto that into that area and onto those scrapes? Are you getting them faster and more regularly, or are they still doing that big loop and then coming back into them?
You're only going to get a big hermit buck, and I'm talking 5, 6 year old, 7 year old, not talking 3 and 4 year olds. You're going to get those old bucks outside of the rut. Community scrapes are usually built around doe family groups for a reason, because the bucks are monitoring the does. So to answer your question, outside of the rut, early season, late season, like I kill them a lot. I kill most of my deer outside of the rut. Not all of them, but a lot of them. August 30th till December 24th out here. If you're not close to them, I don't care what kind of scrape you build, how beautiful it is, how perfect it is, how no scent it is, you're not getting them in the daylight much. So what I end up doing, guys, is having to move with specific bucks based on where they like to hang out every month. Now, come rut, the community scrapes that those big bucks monitor and have monitored for years, then they start coming in a lot more in the daylight, because old, mature, big breeder bucks, they're like us humans. They go to where the action is. They don't they don't, have to rent a what is it, a VBRO or VRBO or whatever the hell it is, Airbnb.
Yeah.
What they do is they move in and camp out when they know they need to, based on photo period of the does. When they move in on those does and those community scrapes, they monitor it, they cover the does, they move on. So you got to be in the game with their movements and be there when they're there. If not, I take the game to the bucks outside of the rut and throw it right in their face. And the hard part is finding them and where they're eating and living and hiding out before they start running their rut routes. So to answer your question, this is a great question. I'm circling back. When you hunt the mountains or hunt big country like you guys do not get disappointed if you're only getting him every 3 or 4 days. That's not terrible. But if you want to kill him, guys, outside of him breeding the does that are using that scrape, you might have to move closer to him early and late season. And if you can't find him, you'll never be in the game with him, other than at that rut spot. Guys ask me all the time, Troy, how many days in the daylight do you have to have a big buck to think he's killable? In the mountains out here, if I got him twice a week in the daylight or 3, he's in trouble, which isn't a lot, but it's a lot to me because of how vast this country is and how the deer have to cover ground to cover all the does or where they're hiding out. So 2 to 3 times a week is not terrible. When I get a buck 4 or 5 times a week in the daylight, he's dead unless I screw it up. He's dead. He's in trouble. He's going to die.
Because you're then on him so tight that you're in his wheelhouse. You are in his bedroom. You know exactly where he is, what he does. He lives, breathes, and dreams by that scrape. Yeah.
Say that again. Say that again, Trev.
No, when you're near them that close and they're regulating on that scrape, they live, breathe, and die by that scrape. Like that's it. You are in their bedroom. You are near them, and you are in their cycle. Yeah.
Hunt the beds, hang the heads on the old guys.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that during the rut.
Right.
Right.
And, some
during
guys.
The rut. Go ahead.
Some guys, are rut hunters. Some guys, but rut hunting is, in my opinion, and some may agree to or disagree on it, but in the rut, like, it's a luck game, right? Being in the right place at the right time, more or less, right? Or being in that rut area, or that's kind of what you're, in some funnel area or whatever the case may be. But pre-rut and post-rut, you have to do your homework to be in the right situation to be on that deer, and you have to really hunt them hard. Like, it's an art to kill them pre and post, right? I mean, like, it's where rut is more of a luck game, in my opinion.
I agree. The bucks that I kill strategically outside of the rut, which is probably 80% of my big whitetails outside of the rut, it's because it's precision tactical extraction. And it's because I've worked hard to get the intel, and a lot of it has to do with that long game.
Mm-hmm.
When
Right.
I say I train deer, people laugh. I don't care if they laugh. When you have a buck growing up on some spots that you have worked on for years, and they get to that beautiful size and age of 5, 6, or 7, they feel pretty comfortable there if you haven't screwed it up. So a lot of times what happens for me, guys, is I learn where a buck hangs out in September. I learn where he likes to move to in October. I learn what doe groups he starts really working on, even at 3 and 4 years old. Still gets his ass kicked by the big dude around, but I still learn where he's spending time. Big buck gets killed out of there. A lot of times what happens for me is I kill the 5 or 6 or 7-year-old out of there, and then that 4-year-old or 3-year-old moves right in. And boy, he feels good. And then I'll hunt him when he hits 5 or 6. But it is true that if I don't know where he's hanging out or making his hideout at month by month by month, based on food, based on pressure, then you throw in the freaking wild card of predators blowing him out of the country for 5 miles. That's when it just goes haywire. Sometimes I won't pick a big buck up until the next year, and I think he's gone or dead because wolves or a lion chased him over 3 ridges. So it just depends. What it's taught me, guys, is unbelievable patience, a love for trying to find them when they move on you and kick you and beat you, and then knowing that some of my greatest, most like the best hunts I ever get to put in are outside of the rut. I love it. Do I still love to rut hunt? Yes. You'll never hear me say I'm a rut hunter. You'll never hear me say I'm an early season hunter. You'll never hear me say I'm a late season hunter. I'm a whitetail killer. And if you're going to kill big whitetails, get real freaking good at killing them any time of the year. And outside of the rut, you better be close to their beds or you're never in the game with the old guys.
I was just going to ask you that. Do you prefer one or the other outside of the rut? Well, you keep saying outside the rut. Do you prefer early season over late or late over early, or both the same?
I think if people look at my history, they'll say I'm really good late. That's because my son plays college football and I go to all his games, and my boys have been in sports, and because that's more my free time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
More time in the woods late season.
But when my boys were little, September, look out. These deer in trouble in September. But when's football season rolling? High school football and college football for my boy has taken up all my Septembers and Octobers on my weekends.
Right.
So what happens is late season, when he's got a little break in football, I have some time to hunt more.
Right. That makes sense.
What that's taught me, guys, forced me to do, because my family is always, my boys come first. And my other boy's a professional bass fisherman. He's all over the place fishing tournaments. What that has trained me to do is say, how can I figure out how to kill them any time of the year from velvet to when they shed? That's when I get to hunt them. And it really boils down to that common denominator. If I want to kill an old buck I'm after, I got to know where he's bedding. I have to. Outside of the rut, I got to know where he's bedding. During the rut, I have to know what doe family groups he traditionally likes to cover.
How are you finding where these bucks are bedding now? Aside from your postseason scouting, right? You can find their beds now, but how are you finding? How do you know where a buck's bedding in August, September, and then he moves in October? How are you finding that in season?
Right. I run scrapes year round, and I find them in. I have bucks on my scrapes right now. I'll have bucks on my scrapes in March, April, May, June, July. Opens August 30th. So I use licking branches to find my big deer. All of the old bucks that I've killed in my entire life, every one of them will hit my licking branches no matter what time of the year it is. Are they scraping and pawing the ground? No.
Right.
Do they drop their head on video and scent check it? Absolutely. Do all my does around them, or whoever happens to be around them, and all the other bucks, which is usually only 2 or 3 deer max, do they check the scrape too, the licking branch? 100%. So I run my scrapes year round. I run cameras year round. When I go to try to find new bucks, I'm prospecting. Camera goes up. I always build a scrape. I have not killed a deer without a scrape in the equation since since I used to get lucky back in the 80s. Always scrape hunting. Always. Licking branch is the key.
Right. Do you run any cameras that aren't on scrapes?
No.
So every camera's on a scrape. You don't have a camera on a train feature or transition line. If you have a camera out, there's a scrape there.
Because I build it.
Right.
Yeah. Fair to your listeners, I put one in there on purpose. Why wouldn't I put a trap in on purpose when I can do it in 10 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I throw that scent out? Think about a trapper. Does a trapper trap without scent?
Never.
They can. They can, but the old boy I used to live by as a kid is a hell of a trapper, and he used to say to me, Troy, you see this scent right here? That's what kills these animals right there. And I was 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old. And I thought, whitetails like to smell things and run scent. Why couldn't I trap whitetails but shoot them with a bow?
I agree with you 100%. Like, the scent is definitely something that's, especially as a trapper, like, why wouldn't you not kill we call it kill a cat with curiosity, because they're going to come and check it out. They're going to see what's there and why it's there and what it's doing. A coyote, a bobcat, a fox, even a beaver, an otter, everything. You always use call scents to everything that you're going to trap, and it would be the same with whitetails. They're going to come in, they're going to smell it, they're going to see what's up. And the other thing is, I guess to kind of be part of it is like, why wouldn't you, now you're just pinpointing them into one area where you're able to put a camera and they're all going to come in there and at least check it out once, right?
Right.
Yeah, I hunt vast country. I hunt 2 states that don't allow any feed. Why would I just go out into the woods and throw a camera up on a terrain feature when I can legally build a scrape? I will say this, guys, and I hope your listeners hear this. I can build a scrape without any scent in it and make it so visual, and just the smell of fresh dirt, deer will come and check it, because I build the licking branch. They're programmed to see a community scrape. Community scrapes don't look like a fresh, rut frenzy based little scrape that never gets attention. They don't look the same. Community scrapes have been beat up, tattered, broken, tore to shit for decades.
Mm-hmm.
I build every scrape like a community scrape on purpose, because I want the visual to be as perfect as I can get it for the area. Add the scent to it. Make sure my human scent's not present. And what I mean by that is not physically touching and putting my hands all over everything. Is my body going to radiate some scent in the area? Yes. But I'm still very careful. Anytime I get on a big buck and find him, or get into an area where I believe there's a big deer, I throw the latex gloves on or the rubber gardener gloves. I build my scrapes. I sculpt them out, the licking branch. I make it look like it's been there for 20 years. The dirt that I break up and build the scrape bed looks like it's been there for 30 years. How do I know that? I find those kind of scrapes. And now that I've got so many years of doing it, guys, I've got some scrapes that are unbelievable that I hunted in the 1980s, late 80s. They're still unbelievable. Why? Right location, great security cover, good quality DNA of animals in those mountains, and nobody has wrecked them yet. Now, have I had guys wreck some of my scrapes or other hunters? Absolutely. Yep, I've had them wreck them too and ruin them because way too much human intrusion. Have I had wolves ruin scrape areas? Yes, because they ran all the deer out of the drainage. Have I had mountain lions come in and just wreak havoc on a drainage before? Yes. So I gotta bounce sometimes too. Sometimes those drainages don't reload for 5 to 10 years with real good deer. Sometimes I've got a couple places right now that I still don't hunt 20 years later. They've never really rebounded or reloaded because of predators.
So it's that big of a deal to you when the predators come in, like it wreaks that much havoc.
It can be.
Mm-hmm.
These deer also have to live with them all the time. So in some places, my bucks, my deer bail, come right back in within 3 to 5, 10 days. It really depends on how, I guess, how much of a killer those predators are that are there. It just really depends on if you get a pack of 10 wolves hunting a drainage till everything's dead, or if one wolf comes through. Guys, it's all situational. It's all situational.
I want to go back on one of the scrape things that was kind of like super, that you kind of brought up, and that was like the fact that a buck or deer in general will go to that community scrape all year round, right? And guys will say, "Oh, they're not really hitting scrapes right now." Like you always hear about that. But in all reality, they're always hitting those scrapes. Like, they'll say, "Oh, the scrapes are really heating up." Like, those scrapes never die. Like, they're always hitting those scrapes. They might not be pawing at the ground and ripping it up, but they're always going into those scrapes and hitting that licking branch. And the only way you would know that is by having cameras on it. And guys kind of have like the wrong outlook on scrapes, I guess, and they don't really understand community scrapes as a whole.
Yeah. Once I got trail cameras and could run them on video, everybody quit arguing with me.
Yeah.
Once I could run them on video, and guys, year round. Got a hold of some cameras back in the day that would run year round for me, short videos, make it the whole winter. When I say year round, I'm obviously getting into them and refreshing the batteries, but there's also some times in the mountains I can't get to them. So I got good cameras, could make it through the winter. I could get to them in March and April, and they'd still be running. And I'd be like, yes, pull those cards and just watch and learn. My prospecting spots, guys, I run cameras year round on those spots and let deer grow up. And I just sit and watch the videos for a whole year. It's unbelievable what you learn. Get a target buck that I want to kill, 3 cameras on him. I want everything I can know about him. If I want to try to kill him, at least 2 cameras, because cameras miss shit. And we all know that. So then I play the game with cameras on a target buck I want to kill. High, back, angles, wind direction. Every camera I run has a windicator hanging in it. So all my videos show the wind and show him approaching based on the wind, every one of them. And I use old man's beard, and it's natural. It dangles in the air.
How much of a factor is that? Are you patterning bucks? You get a picture of a buck coming to a scrape. Are you building patterns and finding he's coming in on certain winds, or how's that working for you?
Yeah, that's the reason for the windicator. The old man's beard has probably taught me more about individual whitetail choices. Every buck's different. I want to know that dude. Like, I want to know what kind of gum he chews and what's important to him. Like that kind of mindset. Some of my bucks are bullies. Some of my bucks are a little more secretive. Some of my bucks only like a certain wind to enter one of my scrapes. So I can differentiate and break all that down as long as I got that windicator showing me. I've had big bucks that I've hunted that would come in from 3 different trails. I've had a big buck before that I killed that would only come in on a specific thermal wind mix.
Right.
So sure, that plays into my decision of when to go hunting.
Right.
So,
all right, I'm glad you. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You're on a roll.
This is gonna be a little rabbit hole here, but you brought it up: wind and thermals and access. So, I'm sure you have different locations, but generally speaking, is your access usually from the bottom up? Are you dropping in from the top? Are you side hilling in? And how are you playing the wind and thermals on the side of these mountains?
Yep. Great question. Probably one of the hardest obstacles to unravel out here if you don't want to screw up your spots first hunt.
Right.
The majority. And this is based on what the wind's doing specifically that day and thermals. So bear with me on this. I don't want to get way ahead of your listeners. I want to keep this like very straight to the point, but not confuse people. Most of my entrance is lateral. Climb up somewhere, drop down somewhere from a safe distance away, use a really good prevailing to come in laterally, set up just off of his favorite winds, which are 75% of the winds in front of me with thermal mixes. I'm safe. Have some type of terrain barrier feature where I climb up in a tree that protects me from my entrance and exit. He's going to come in. He might even J-hook around my scrape. Doesn't matter. I'm sitting just off of his safety, or he thinks he's safe. I'm sitting just off of him based on that lateral entrance and exit and kill. Coming in from down below and above, you really have to time. You have to time it.
Mm-hmm.
I've killed a couple great whitetails because I would wait till the last hour of the day because my only entrance was straight uphill. And I had to wait for that thermal to switch. And as soon as it switched, I hauled ass, got in my stand, and killed him 30 minutes later.
Right.
Coming in from up high, dropping down on bucks. I do that a lot, but I usually come in from a side ridge. Then I'll lateral over. Why? Thermals. What's going on? Let's say you come in up high in a morning set, and this big buck's climbing high in the morning to get away from danger below. Mm-hmm. Let's say I come in on the back side of the mountain on him, and I'm higher than him. If I drop straight down on his travel path as he's ascending in the morning for him to get up to his bed and be safe, if I come straight in above him, my scent's drifting down into his face. That's why he ascends in the morning. He's always traveling out here because of predators. My old deer are always traveling with a wind advantage. I don't know if they would be that careful if we didn't have predators, but they have to do it every day of the year, 24/7, 365 days a year to avoid lions and wolves, shit like that. So because they're so acute with their wind travel and at least having it at a 45, and I see this and I test this all the time and watch this with my old bucks, I have found personally that if I come in off to the side, never get above or below him, kill him just beyond me, I'm pretty safe if my prevailing protected me coming in.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, are you finding, you kind of touched on this, but just to be clear, do you find that most of your bucks, when they go to bed in the morning, they're bedding above your scrape?
Almost always, and this is why. They can lay above my scrape 200, 300 yards away. The prevailing the prevailing mix with the thermals is about 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock, everything shifts uphill out in these mountains. They can literally lay up there above a scrape, scent check every doe, every scent that I have in the scrape. And I'm positioned in a tree with a terrain-based feature based on where I believe he's bedding, and I'm just off to the edge. My scent is not blowing at him. Soon as the wind screws me and starts blowing right at where I think a big buck's bedding, guess what I do?
Get out of there.
I get the F out.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I get out. I won't do it. I won't do it because I put too much time into trying to kill him. So I've had to leave before, but almost always nowadays, because I put deer where I want them to be with my scrapes, maybe just off of their community scrape 100 yards, I do it because it allows me to use terrain and barriers like creeks, big blowdown patches to sit over to where he won't walk up through it. He'll walk out beyond me, come over, check my scrape, go up to his bed. I'm just off to the edge of him all day, and then he comes down in the afternoon and I kill him. Or he comes down in midday and I kill him when he thinks the coast is clear.
Because you've been getting hit in the face all morning with that thermal coming up the hill. And now in a situation like that, I'm trying to draw it up in my head. I'm assuming like prevailing wind coming over the top of the ridge, coming down the hill, thermal coming up, and he's just sitting right there smelling both ways, and you're just off laterally.
Yeah, and I really have to picture it in my mind, my scent cone versus where I believe he's bedded based on intel. And my intel is usually pretty spot on. I still check tracks and watch tracks and trails more than anything because I know my big buck's tracks. You know, I know his track. I learned his track.
Yeah.
But again, back off of it, feel really comfortable sitting on him. A lot of times I kill between 10 and 2 outside of the rut. Big buck thinks he's really safe. He's not ready. I'm 100 to 200 yards from him. I built a scrape that he's been hitting and checking. in the daylight at least once every 3 days. I'm there on the right day, perfect wind for him. I'm just off the edge of it. That sucker shows up at a weird time, middle of the day, just to check the scrape, meander around, eat some huckleberries, leave. Like early season. I have done that more than once. If my setup is 10 yards off, 15 yards off, I'm screwed. Got to be precise.
Are you able to run? Are you running cell cameras in the mountains? You do not have cell service.
I noticed one of the questions today on your guys' site was that question. I really don't have much cell service.
Right.
So I like to check my cameras on a big deer. And again, I'm living with him a whole year, guys. And he really only moves a ton from September to late November. That's when I really got to move around with him. But early season, he's probably in trouble if he hasn't made his move yet. And I've got him on a scrape. So even though I don't have a cell camera, I'll sneak in on favorable days, just like I'm hunting him before the season opens or even during the season, get a good set in and check that card. Do I run in and out and check cards? Hell no, not on these old bucks. Only when I'm hunting to kill, or only right about a week before season, I'll check a card if I want to kill a specific buck. Then it's kind of like my rule is only when I hunt him, or only at least once a month if I'm trying to find him. Now, if I'm prospecting for him and I can't find him, then I'm way more aggressive on checking those cards.
Okay.
Because you have to be more careful trying to get in on them than when you're trying to kill them. Because then you could blow them right out of there. Like, then you're a predator at that point, and that deer could be 5 miles away.
These mountain deer with apex predators will literally leave the drainage sometimes and move a drainage over.
Yeah.
And they'll do it in August. They'll do it in September. They'll do it in October. They don't give a shit. They don't have any fences. They don't have any small woodlots to have to hide out in. They have endless country, farther than they would ever want to walk, to hide out in. So they just go.
And then you're back to square one. Now you're prospecting for them.
It's exactly what happened to me day one this year, guys, August 30th. That's what happened to me. I have an 8-year-old buck that I cannot kill. Not yet. Super smart son of a bitch. I have had predators, especially wolves, screw him up on me more than any deer. Opening day this year, went in to kill him. He'd been in there about 8 days before when I checked, obviously hoping that he would stay on his pattern in the daylight. This deer has grown up on this scrape since he was 2.5. I go in to kill him. I get out of my truck. I'm going to sit on him all day, opening day. And I'm thinking, I'm going to kill you. You're in trouble. I get out of my truck and walk about 100, 200 yards, wolf shit everywhere in my trail. I just went, I go in there, see the wolf tracks close to my scrape and my stands, not right on it. And I was like, screw it. I'm checking this card because I don't think he'll be here. Sure enough, wolves were on camera. He hadn't been there since the day before that. So he knew the wolves were in the area and bailed early. He scent checked. So had the wolves right on the camera. They totally wrecked everything on him. I found him, guys. I found him over 1.5 miles away at another scrape that I have built that he uses every now and then. And then he was only once a week at night. So I wasn't in the game with him, so I didn't waste my time on him until I could get in the game with him. Then I got on my other buck and killed him.
So, all right, this is a tough question because you have more variables with the predators. But these bucks that you're, I forget the term you use, but the bucks that you have conditioned to your scrapes for multiple years, 2.5 years old.
A long game.
How often are you able to apply historical data from years previous with particular bucks? Like, are you able to pattern them to the date or a certain moon phase year after year? And can you predict that this buck's going to show up and do certain things to allow you to better success to kill him in the coming season? You see anything like that?
Yes, and we kill them that way on some of them. Obviously, doe photo period is huge because it's the same day or two every year because of the photo period when they cycle in and cycle out. if the predators don't screw me up and a buck really likes an area he's living in, I'll usually get him doing some of the same things every year within a 5-day window every year. And a lot of times it's a 3-day window. On specific old does that I get to know, it's a 1 or 2-day window sometimes. And I got to be there. So as long as the variables don't hammer me,
Right.
then a lot of times my old mountain bucks know where doe A and doe B and doe C in a 3-mile range. They know when they come in. And the old breeder bucks, the guys that are usually the studs that I'm hunting, they're there. They show up. I've also had other guys pressure some of my best bucks to me. Why? Because they booger them. And my bucks have been growing up on my spot, feel pretty safe up there because I haven't boogered them yet. Do I booger bucks? Sure. Try not to. I'm pretty good at not doing it, but I do. You still screw stuff up sometimes.
That
But
definitely.
yeah, historical data works. Historical, especially with photo period. Moon phase isn't as big to me as weather conditions and photo period around the rut. Weather conditions outside of the rut, guys, for feeding for a big buck in the mountains just to come and feed and hang out in a spot and check a scrape. I'll take weather even over moon phase. Do I believe moon phase helps? Yes.
It's
But
something
I'll
that
still take weather. I'll take weather over that.
What about do you have any bucks that I wouldn't say they disappear on you. They summer somewhere else. And they're going to show back up, say, I don't know, around velvet come off time,
Yep.
late August, we'll say that late summer shift. Are you seeing bucks kind of show up like clockwork, or certain bucks, probably not all of them, but you might not see them all summer, and then all of a sudden, just like within a couple of days, he shows back up on you?
Yeah, that deer I had the wolves come and blow me out opening day this year.
Yep.
He always show up August 15th at that specific spot, right around August 15th. Move into that high mountain area, high elevation. It's 100 degrees out here. I have a beautiful creek running right behind my stand down through the mountains. Cold water, really cool dark timber in the north face. He liked it in there on that bench because it gave him everything he wanted in that hot weather. So between August 15th every year and August 20th, I always have him in the daylight in the velvet. Opens up August 30th.
he's on them.
Right.
He's on them.
And he show up, buddy.
I've got videos of him, beautiful videos of him, other times of the year too, on a mock scrape I built in there, and he's been hitting it since he was 2.5.
I think it's something to be said, both you and Ryan Moose, the all year round intel on these deer and literally growing them, like getting the intel all year round and on them constantly. Like that goes to show there's a big reason why you guys do that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are monitoring deer now year round.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people where you can feed are feeding deer year round. And we can do that in Washington. I get it. I have no problem with it where they can do it.
Right.
I hunt Washington like you hunt Saskatchewan, Canada. But I run scrapes because my big bucks are not afraid of a scrape.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, all that to say, but you're conditioning if you're feeding. You're monitoring if you're feeding. But if you can't feed, then the scrapes allow you to condition and allow you to monitor also. So I like to, I'm a big believer in Pavlov's theory of conditioning with animals, with humans, all of us,
Right.
From the old biology days. So yeah, why not trap and condition animals to me and even make them, if you will, even in the mountains of the wild, forest land, public land. And there'll be people that say you can't do it, but I'll just say bullshit.
Right.
Because I've been doing it for decades.
Right.
I really like the idea of getting, and I watch them close, they get a little more comfortable every year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get into that 5-6-year-old age where they're really smart. So they're still comfortable, but I'm telling you, the way they enter and exit is more precise.
Right.
And I just pray that a wolf doesn't kill them or a lion or another hunter if they've got the genetics. Now, if they get killed by somebody else, so be it. It's public land. I love it. But I'm definitely not. I don't think the kind of bucks I hunt or the area I hunt is advantageous to me. You got to figure it out, and you got to put a lot of work in to make it work. To kill mature studs, top end deer every year. I'm not doing this, guys, if I'm not doing the work behind the scenes.
Right. Troy, can you do me a quick favor? You touched on it a little bit earlier. Half of Connecticut's a bait state, half of it's, well, not like maybe a third's a bait state, the rest isn't. And I've heard you talk about your triangle before. Yep. I've tried to regurgitate it to some friends because a lot of them all say, I got these bucks on my bait. They're all nocturnal. You can't kill them over the corn pile in the daylight.
Right.
And I've told them what I've heard you talk about. Can you just touch into that and give those listeners a little bit of what you're experiencing with your triangle and how you're getting these bucks killed near corn piles?
Yeah. Years ago, I figured it out real quick. If I'm going to hunt states that a lot of alfalfa bales fed in these mountains in Washington. And I thought, okay, everybody's baiting. Everybody's whining and complaining about not killing something over a bait pile. I actually love that everybody's feeding these deer and helping them be healthy. I have no problem with that. They're eating straight protein all through the season. So I thought, okay, these old bucks have had a seriously scary situation and almost got killed or got wounded or got spooked at bait. So then they quit coming in the daylight. Simple. I'm going to give them what I hunt and how I hunt them. And this happened a couple decades ago. I thought, I'm going to take my scrape game at them, and off to the side and out of the way, I'm going to hold my does with feed. So what it really turns into is my setup. I'm the head of the triangle, the top of it. My scrape is where I'm going to usually kill a big buck at. And I've only killed one big buck that came towards the feed. In all these years, I've killed one big one. And I think it was because there was a little buck feeding. He wanted to kick his ass, actually. I don't think he was coming in to eat, but that's up for people to decide. But what I do is give a big buck everything he wants at that scrape, far enough away to where the feed does not spook him too bad, and my scrape's always right on really good cover that he can pop out of. Keep my does home, keep them around, put them off to the side, enjoy watching them during the day, just like you see on Canadian hunting. Those bucks up there, though, will walk right into the feed. Mine won't. Too much pressure. Too many predators, too much hunting pressure here. And what I got to watch when I started building these triangles, you guys kind of see me on the camera here. I'm back here. I got that edge wind. My entrance is money. I got a big scrape working for me year round. That triangle, that alfalfa or whatever we're putting out over here is is usually a pretty good distance. And the better I got at it, the more I spread them out. So I've evolved it. That big buck, and I've watched big deer do this for years now, come in the thick, will check my scrape and exit. Will look over, stare at, see if there's does over there, bail. What's it's done for me, guys, is I get those shots on those big bucks 30 yards away, 20 yards away, 40 yards away, depending on what the area offers me for a setup. But I always have a triangle built. I do this when I went to Ohio. I tried the same tactic. When I hunt Oklahoma, same tactic. Get off the damn feed, get away from it, but it's important to hold deer. Maybe they're eating there at night. Go hunt those big scrapes that a buck has never felt negative stimulus from. Kill him on the scrape, not that far away, but far enough away he doesn't associate it with danger. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have to have the feed out, because if all the neighbors are feeding and you're not feeding, you're going to lose all your does to the neighbors. So
you don't have any does. They're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So your feed's there just to compete with the neighbors, keep your does there, and your scrapes there to get the buck out in daylight.
To try to kill him daylight, and it's always associated with a really nice travel path for him that he likes in the daylight, he usually pops out of the heavy cover, and I kill him 10 feet out of the heavy cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, on a scrape. 10 to 20 feet out of it max.
And that's what they talk about a lot of times on the bait. They say to hunt 50, 60 yards off on the downwind side of that bait. That's where they're killing a lot of them bucks. And now you're just adding another obstacle for that buck to be in that downwind side and adding that scrape there to be a little bit more successful. Just like we've been talking about the whole entire podcast, just a little bit of scent bait for him to draw him into that area on that downwind side of that bait.
I'm giving him one more really important DNA ingrained reason to come by in the daylight. And all my does, it's pretty cool. All of my does hit my scrape. Then they'll walk over 40 yards away and eat some. And I watch my does a lot in that state. No, I have no problem with it. I just play. Hey, I'm gonna play the game that I get to play because what's my end goal? I want to kill. And here's a good example of that, guys. I go to Oklahoma. I'm not hunting over the corn pile. Let me move 40, 50 yards, 60, 70 yards from it and hunt that buck's bed where he's getting to it. And I'll kill him in the daylight versus sitting back over that corn he's afraid of in the daylight. And some of those deer down there aren't even afraid of it because I've been able to hunt private land down there where there's no pressure. Now, again, everything I'm hunting out here, big pressure. Hunters, elk hunters walking through the woods everywhere, whitetail season overlapping with elk, gun hunters for 2 months hunting deer and elk with a tag in their pocket, and I'm bow hunting it. It's a shit show sometimes.
It gets crazy. Troy, I got one last question for you, my friend, and you probably already know the question. You probably studied it, so on and so forth. Troy, I want to know what drives you outdoors.
You telling me we got to be done?
No, we can keep going.
Well, guys, we promised those dudes that asked some of them questions on your site today. We got to answer a few.
All right, let's go. I'm fine with it. Let's do it.
Let's do a couple because we told them we would.
Yeah, absolutely. I am all about it.
And then let's answer that at the end if you don't mind.
Nope, don't mind at all. I just didn't want to.
I got one ready right now, Trev.
Go ahead, rip it.
Freshening up scrapes. So you're building these scrapes, in the off season. Are you freshening them up as the season goes on? If you go into hunt them, are you freshening them up? Like, what are you doing to maintain that scrape? Or are you, like, once a deer starts working it, do you just let it take over from there?
Great question. Any scrape that I find and overmark or any scrape that I build, I treat them exactly the same after that. I have a 1 month rule. I really try to check my cameras once a month. I don't care what time of the year it is. Unless, of course, I'm on a big buck and I'm trying to kill him, then I put everything else to the side. So 1 month rule. I love to freshen at least once a month, year round. Or the other rule that trumps it is if I'm hunting a buck on a specific scrape, every time I leave, I refresh it.
Okay,
and I give him a dose and I pull him back because the reason I'm hunting it is he's killable. I'm not in hope hunting. I'm there for a reason because he's been there and he's killable and he's showing me he's killable. So when I leave him, I like to refresh him when I exit because I'm getting out of the tree anyway. I'm making some noise anyway. I freshen it and I get a lot of the bucks I'm trying to kill back there within 24 hours.
Now, will you do that what if you can't hunt them the next day?
100% refreshing because I'll pull him for a week.
Okay. Because that happened to me last year. I was hunting a big old mature buck on a big old community scrape, and he was kicking my ass, and I got pissed off one day, and I got out of the stand, and I went over there and freshened up the scrape, and that son of a bitch showed up the next morning, and I wasn't there.
100%. That's why I do it. You just nailed it.
Yeah.
I've had so many experiences with that over the years. He'll come in and overmark your ass instantly if you don't screw it up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I didn't even have any scent on me. I just took a stick and opened up the dirt. And I mean, this is, you know what I'm talking about. Some of the listeners might not have found one of these before. This is a scrape that's probably been there for 20 years. As soon as you freshen up that dirt, I can smell it right away,
Yeah. You and I can smell that fresh dirt from 50 yards away. A deer can smell it from 500 yards away if the wind blows at him.
Right.
I'm telling you, it's unbelievable how far scent truly carries, especially out here in these mountains. I throw that thistleweed all the time, and my thistleweed usually carries in my winds and thermals 200 yards before it even drops.
Right.
If
We
I have
kind
a
of
decent wind.
we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but without cell cams and you're only pulling cards, say once a month, how are you knowing when to hunt that deer? And like you said a couple times in the podcast, if he hits, if he's showing up 2 or 3 times a week in the daylight, then he's in trouble.
Yep.
How are you knowing exactly when to go in for that extraction without cell cams and out pulling cards?
So for years, I've killed the majority of all these bucks in here without a cell cam. Go in, check that card, know he's in the area, really want to hunt a specific deer, he's on it. The intel tells me he's killable. I'm doubling back on him right away once I break down the direction he's coming from, what time of day he's liking to use it, because usually I'm near his bed outside of the rut. And I'm doubling right back on him after I refresh the scrape, switch a card real quick. I'm right back on him instantly if the wind works for him first, me second. I can still get in. He's in trouble. I'm hunting him as many days that I have available to me to hunt him in my work schedule. Instantly get right on him. Do not wait on those old bucks. Get on their ass right away. Now, sometimes work and going to my son's ball game or something is in the way. I usually miss out. I usually have that deer back in the daylight, almost always, if he's killable, within 24 to 48, 72 hours, they're always back. When they're camped out there for a reason, when they're living there. So yeah, get right back in and then check the card, swap it every time you hunt, refresh your scrape, get out. You start noticing that he's leaving and he ain't around, you screwed something up. He knows you're there. Or vice versa. Or sit on him for 2 or 3 days. I've killed a lot of big whitetails after the third day. Like hunt that third sit or that second sit or that fourth sit. And it's because I'm patient and I know I'm not screwing him up. I have to wait for his rotation to me, his circuit, because he's a big mountain buck that's covering more ground than a lot of not pinned in deer that live in small woodlots and whatnot are just there. That's their choice.
Right.
Sometimes I have to hunt 3 days to get a crack at him. Sometimes it's the first hunt. Like I set on this deer. You guys probably saw this one I killed this year.
Yeah. Yep.
I set on this deer, guys. I waited till he was killable. I waited till he moved in on me. Daylight. He was on me, but I waited till he got daylight. I legitimately set on him. I killed him the third sit. I killed him. And
3 sits in a row, 3 days in a row?
No. The third sit I had an opportunity to hunt, not in a row. And one of the sits was an all-dayer. The other sit was only what I had available an afternooner. And then the third early morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. So one full day, 1 2-hour afternoon hunt, 2 hours in the morning killed him. So it's if I say 3 days of sitting, not even close. So let's say 10 hours total, because I had one all-dayer to start.
And same
he was
tree.
Killable.
All 3 sits are the same tree?
100% because it's dialed for the wind. My scrape.
And your scrape, yeah. Right.
And my scrape, yeah. 100%. Yeah. Oh, it was a triangle. It was in Washington. I had it all.
Cool. Yep. So my question, one of the questions that they had asked on there, like what makes it that it's go time to get in and hunt that buck? Like when they're on top of you, how do you know when it's go time to start to hunt in on that buck and go after him?
Daylight, man. He feels safe. He's old.
Okay.
Again, not hunting immature deer, hunting an old buck that feels safe. Sometimes his age and his confidence in a spot gets him killed with me.
And I think that's what they're asking is like, you already targeted the buck, you know that he's there, but what makes it that go time for you to move in on him? Obviously, he's daylighting in that spot regularly. You know it's time to go after him.
Yeah. Well, daylight, I can get in on him, entrance and exit with a favorable thermal wind pattern. I really like the right weather conditions too. Give me cold, give me nasty, give me something that's not warm. And I really like some wind. Give me some noise. Give me some wind that makes some noise. I get in clean, super clean, meaning he can't hear me, he can't smell me, he can't see me. We literally meet at a point and never cross each other's scent cones. And that's all based on, laying all that out ahead of time. And then he's in trouble. Then he's probably gonna make that mistake because he's confident that I'm not up there or I'm not in there.
What is the best species of tree branch to use in a licking branch in North Idaho?
Oh, good question.
I'm not giving away my double top secret best one.
Can we talk off air?
Yeah.
Can I? Yeah. Can I give you guys my number? Can I give you guys my number 2?
Yes, that's fine.
And it's legit. It's legit. Ocean spray.
Really?
Yeah. Ocean spray. Yeah, it's legit. It works amazing.
Cool. I got a good question because I can relate to this one. Why do you always look so mad in all your pictures?
Yeah.
I absolutely it's kind of funny. I'm so glad you guys asked this.
I do the same thing. That's
Me
why
too.
I'm laughing,
Everyone's
'cause I
like,
never
why
smile.
are you so miserable? You shoot good things. Like, why are you always
You
miserable?
should be smiling.
Well, guys, here's the deal. I don't live by other men's rules. I never have. I spend more time with these deer than I do humans, other than my wife, and probably as much time with the deer as I even do my wife, and probably more time with deer than my kids. Meaning now that they're out of the house,
Right.
I get really real close to some of these old bucks that I get to know for 4 or 5 years. When I kill them, out of respect, and I'm not trying to frown, but out of respect, it's like I've never been into the jump around, throw a crazy fit. Hey, let me say this. I don't want to hurt people's feelings. It's my own personal feeling I get right after I take his life because he's done so much to make it. So it's more just a look of this guy will never walk this mountain again. And I just killed him. And I joke around and say, killing's not supposed to be funny. And hey, you'll catch me smiling every now and then. But it's more of it's not about me grinning and jumping around in the background. I just took a buck out that's outsmarted, outwitted every predator, every human that's tried to kill him for the last 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
And I almost wish that I just wear a mask and let the buck be everything people see.
Right.
And I don't know if people look at my bucks that way because I don't know if they realize how old they are or what they've survived. But for me, it's more of a moment of solace of just, you just took his life and he was an incredible whitetail. I still smile, guys. I get real excited after the fact. It's just always something that has meant something to me, just that cold stare. I don't mean to, I'm not trying to frown. It's just more of a cold stare. Like I'm going through all the years that this deer taught me something that I probably screwed up on him maybe, or just what he's accomplished living that long.
And it's a respect factor.
Well, right.
It's 100% a respect thing, guys. I don't know if people can relate to me, but I also don't know a lot of people that do what I do and live the world I live in. I don't know a lot of people that do it.
Well,
I know a lot of I know a lot of people that kill big deer all over. I know a lot of people that get fired up and pumping fists and going nuts, and good for them. It's not my personality. My personality's different. I'm a pretty serious guy, probably too serious sometimes. I'm all business. And when I kill him, it's like, he's done. I'll never see him again on the hook.
Right. The term target buck gets thrown around a ton now, right? And a lot of times that's a deer that showed up on camera in August and now he's a target buck this year and you kill him.
Right.
That's a lot different than a buck they've been watching for 3 or 4 years and they consume a big hole in your mind for multiple years. And not a lot of people get to experience what that feels like when you kill that deer after 2 or 3 year chase. And The morning after, there's like an empty hole inside of you. Like you're checking if you have cell cameras. You're waking up and you're checking trail cameras, and that deer's not going to be on that trail camera anymore. And you almost get this feeling like what the fuck do I do now? Like he's dead.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I say all the time, like I love to kill big bucks. I love killing target bucks, but I like the hunt itself. And I wish sometimes these bucks I could catch and release them. Like I wish I could just shoot them, take a picture with them, release them, and chase them again tomorrow. Like, can we just do this again tomorrow, buddy?
Yeah. This guy right here is a perfect example, guys. I literally got to watch him for 4 years of his life grow up. And when I killed him, I fooled him. He had no idea I was there. I was clean. He was shocked. And I see the shock in my old bucks that I kill that I know for several years. I see the shock in them when I shoot them. They're like, fuck. Like I can just see it in their body language when I hit them. They're just like, shit, it's over. And I can tell by the way they run off, and I usually hit them pretty damn good. Like this guy went 10 seconds. But the respect, everything comes in. As soon as I kill him, trust me, I'm so happy, guys. But this thing comes over me to where, out of respect for that deer, I get real excited, happy, and all smiles after I recover him and after I find him. Mm-hmm. And I really get happy. And then it's a big time respect moment with me and that deer for about a half hour. Just me and him by ourselves on a mountain somewhere. Just all respect. And I almost have a side to me now. I really do. I don't almost. I have this side to me now where I look at that old boy laying there and go, not many like you, buddy. And you've been a hell of a education. I give him that respect. So, people can say what they want. Again, I don't live by any man's rule other than God's rules and how I feel good about things. So if people don't like me for not always smiling, then so be it. Let them not like me for that. I think it's ridiculous. I never bag on people for jumping up and down and throwing their fists. Good for them. Every human's different. We're all different. I just like the way I go about my business, and I show a lot of respect to those deer, and that's what those pictures mean, is that respect.
I agree.
One of the questions that we do, what is your ideal arrow setup?
Well, I've tried so many. I would say I'm on the heavier side. I'm not super heavy, though. I'm 500, 525, 495, 485, somewhere in there. I like a small diameter arrow. I do like how they penetrate. Shoot a fixed blade always. Put me around 500 grains. I shot 80-pound bows for years, and then I decided I didn't need that. So I shoot a 70-pound bow, 500 grain arrow, solid, tough as hell broadhead, something that's not going to break or fail on me. And I'm a fixed blade guy probably till the day I die. And then I like the small shield cut fletchings, and I really enjoy shooting a lighted knock now, finally, that we get to shoot them in Idaho. But no, I like that 500 grain area for whitetails, around 500.
That raises another question for me. Generally speaking, how many yards off your scrapes are you usually set up?
Great question.
Typically
20 to 22, 18 at the closest usually.
18, 22. How high are you hunting usually?
Pretty high.
Cover?
I like to get up to, our tree species don't offer you any cover till you get up high, because our timber's slick and clean up to 20, 30 feet, the big trees.
Does that help you at all? Do you find that helps you at all with wind and thermals with your height too, or is it just strictly cover?
No, it's both.
Okay.
What I found out over the years is when I get high in the mountains with all the banking and bullshit winds you deal with, I'll kill a lot of deer within 5 to 15 yards below me. And you watch my thistleweed go out over the top of them for 100 yards before it even drops.
Right.
So I love it when they come in close. I kill them close a lot, real close, 20 and in, because my wind cannot drop right on top of them based on where I'm set up.
Right.
And if I'm too low out here, shit, I'm sitting out in the wide open on a bare tree. It's
Right.
ridiculous. As soon as I go to the Midwest, I was in Ohio this year, guys. I was hunting 2 sticks, 3 sticks because it made sense.
Right.
I do everything that makes sense based on the habitat and the playing field you're given.
Yep.
Just adapt.
Right.
Absolutely. These blanket statements make no sense for people that hunt different habitats. You
Right.
can't. You got to adapt and overcome based on your playing field and equation you're dealt.
I think that comes true to us that, that have been doing it for a long time and have that true woodsmanship and understand the ways of the woods, right? Where a lot of people, not knocking people, right? But like they live and die by podcast, YouTube, and we can all say whatever we want where in our particular situation, this is what we do X, Y, and Z most of the time, right? But we also know and strategize wherever we're hunting. We use our woodsmanship and our sportsmanship to then adapt to whatever we're doing, right? So like I can tell you that I hunt 23 feet in the air every single set and I'm 20 feet off of a scrape, but when I'm hunting in, say, Idaho, I'm going to go to 35 feet if I have to whatever make myself, accompany whatever's going on.
You might need to. My son killed the biggest whitetail buck ever killed in Washington for a teenager with a bow when he was 13. We were on the downhill side of an unbelievable lateral trail to a community scrape that was existing. We had to enter and exit from the down mountainside. No other way around it. I killed that deer at 30 feet up. We had to, because we're on the downside of that steep slope of that lateral trail where that big scrape existed for decades. I've been teaching guys for 31 years, coaching for 33. The greatest thing I tell kids I can ever teach you is to think for yourself. Adapt to your equations. All the people in the podcast world absolutely love that we get to talk about this. But think for yourself in your environment. Let the deer teach you. Break down your habitat, tree species, everything, entrance, exit, based on what is going to work best for you to kill. And kill whatever the hell you want, you're happy with. Just because I love to go chase these older bucks doesn't mean that some young guy listening thinks he has to. I mean, this took a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of dedication and a lot of sacrifice. Do I absolutely love it? Yes. But I sure hate hearing people get disappointed or upset with themselves or down on themselves because they buy into what they think they need to go become or do. Just be you. Everybody out there, be yourself, enjoy the hell out of it. You decide how hard you want to work at it to get as proficient as you want and go enjoy it, because you never know. Might be your last hunt tomorrow. You don't know. And yeah, it's simple. People overthink shit too much. Oh, if I set up a scrape like Troy does and hunt 35 feet high, it's going to work. Well, you don't need to do that in Ohio or Oklahoma or Iowa. You don't need to. You don't need to hunt as high as I do. I have to because of a tree species and the way the limbs work. You know, just little stuff like that I've never understood. And I do want to end on this. Mindset is everything. Mindset is everything. Why allow people out in this world to creep into your mind and boss you around how you're going to hunt? I listen to the guys that give me tidbits of information that can help me. Like, okay, man, that's helpful. That's all I ever care about doing podcasts, guys. Maybe I give you guys one little tiny piece of information that you go, shit, yeah, that helped me. I'm worthless to anybody on a podcast if I don't try to share some info that they may be able to use.
Right.
That's what I care about. Take a piece of it, apply it, use it. If it helps you, I freaking feel good because you've become more successful. And I get a lot of unbelievable, awesome testimonies to me yearly, just on little things they might have picked up on something I've said or experienced that helped them. That to me is what it's all about. It's not about trying to be somebody else, ever.
What better way to go right into Troy. What drives you outdoors, my friend?
I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to answer Dewey's question. He private messaged me first.
Okay.
He said, Troy, what do you do with nighttime pictures? How do you treat them? Dewey, you hear me out there? I told you I'd do this for you. I told you I'd talk about it. Nighttime pictures are important because I want to get some data. I want to know that a buck's there, but I don't get serious or I even move on a deer. If all I ever get is nighttime of him, then I move. But if I get daylight and night, I'm starting to get in the game. So Dewey, I hope that helps. Nighttime pictures are important for a lot of reasons, but a lot of times you got to move too if you really want to get in the game. All right. Read that.
Hold on. No, I have a follow-up question now. So
okay.
If you're getting this nighttime pictures, right? Say it's, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night. He's coming in from a particular direction most of the time. Are you now going to go look for him the next ridge over from the direction he's coming from or the next bedding area over and try to just get closer to where he's coming from to try to relocate him that way?
Yeah, real simple. I'm not close enough to his bedding for him to feel comfortable for me to kill him in daylight because he's only showing late at night. I'm going to think about all the boots on the ground that I did in that area and look at my maps again. And I've done this a lot in my life. I relocate myself based on where I believe he would bed based on wind advantage for him, habitat, feed, everything. Throw it all in there. Move towards him. Set a scrape out. See if I pick him up daylight. And I've been real successful with that over the years moving. Instead of just hoping I'm going to get him in the daylight. I'm very aggressive in moving at deer.
Which is very important, and a lot of people don't use that the nighttime pictures to their advantage. They just hope and they say, okay, I'm going to go into this spot and I'm going to hope that he's going to show up there, which maybe, but it's only a 50% chance, right? Where, like you're saying, if you're using that nighttime footage to your advantage and trying to move in on them and get them into daylight.
Yeah, and guys, to be fair to your listeners, if you have fences, then you might be screwed. I don't have fences.
Right.
I hunt huge tracts of public to where I have freedom to go at him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or property lines.
Yeah,
that's our problem here.
Yeah, that's what I mean by fences.
Yeah.
Property lines.
I think the most common thing you hear in the situation like that is, oh, he's nocturnal. I'm going to have to wait till they're out to kill him. We got to wait till he starts daylighting instead of being able to go hunt him down and find out where he is in the daylight. Now,
I do. You said it. I hunt deer down a lot, meaning I move. And I move because I'm afforded that hunting the public. Now, I also deal with all the public issues. You deal with both. Yep.
Because you might go to move in on that deer. I hunt big tracts of public land, and when you go over that next ridge or that next finger, now you're moving into somebody else's setup or somebody else moves in or whatever the case may be. And that's one of the negatives about hunting big tracts of public, because you might not be the only guy in there,
Yeah. One thing that I can say in my entire life, and God is my witness, if I move on a deer and find somebody else, I leave him be.
Same.
I've never in my life moved in on anybody ever on purpose. And I usually do my preseason scouting. I really walk areas and look for any sign of anybody setting up near me on purpose. Why? I don't want people around me.
Right.
So, and I will literally just turn and go the other way if I run into, and I can tell if a guy's been there for a while.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Versus somebody moving in on me. I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You can see all in the details of, how long they've hunted that spot or worked that spot versus, I also deal with guys finding my pickup and hunting 200 yards from me. Right. I've had to deal with that before. So, and it is what it is. I really try to be respectful, not just to the deer. I really try to be respectful. And there's no excuse for me not to be out here because there's so much public land. It's straight bullshit if you think you got to sit next to somebody. Because I have so much ground.
Right.
Can you give us a little whitetail as far as like what are you looking for when you find another, say you find an old lock-on stand in a tree? What are you looking for? What signs are you looking for to let you know that a guy's actively hunting it? Maybe it's an old stand that hasn't been hunted in a couple years,
Yep.
or how
Yep.
often that spot's being hunted.
Yeah, the bark on the tree, the wear, the setup around, trail cameras existing or not. I'll find, I'll just look at everything. How long, maybe the steps or a screw in or ladder or whatever he's got set up. I can tell how long it's been in the
Yep.
tree. First
Sticks
of
and
all,
leaves on the platform.
yeah, the needles. We have needles out here, not leaves. So the needles will be on the seat or on the platform. Find something that I found plenty of stands in my past where guys just flat out leave them in the woods and never come back.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen a human there again. But boy, a fresh set's clean. It's just been hung. The straps are clean. They're new. It's pretty easy to tell how weathered a strap is based on how long it's been there. So yeah, and I found those before, guys. Oh, there comes my lab. I have found those before. And I'm just like, dude's in a good spot. Good for you.
Yep.
My rule is I try to get a mile away from anybody, at least 800 yards through the air minimum. But I try to get a mile away, and this is why. I don't want some other guy effing up my spot because he's too close to me, because his entrance and exit might screw me over.
Right.
So I love just being a hermit. I'm a hermit, guys. I try to get away from everybody. I have been successful, though, a lot in the past hunting spots where guys drive right by them. And I'll kill the big buck that's sneaking underneath them through a drainage or a real steep, thick drainage stream. I'll kill them when guys drive right by me. They'll drive by, they'll go way beyond me, and I'll be sitting in there where that old buck uses to travel near a road. I've killed a couple within 250 yards of a road that everybody's driving by. And he'll get up and move between 10 and noon, 1 o'clock, because he hears all the cars come in the mountains. He hears them all exit, and he knows middle of the day is when he can get up. So I've done that too. I just play the equation that I'm dealt. Play the hand you're dealt.
That's just a very good woodsman. So, Troy, I guess, can we all know what drives you outdoors?
Yeah. Well, my love for the mountains is ingrained in me from my father. My dad was a logger and a mountain man himself, and just a freaking stud, great guy, animal in the woods, great, really good elk hunter, mule deer hunter. And my dad was just such a good human that when he got killed when I was 17, he was logging and got killed. So if you really want the truth, the mountains have always brought me back to my dad. And the whitetail has always given me happiness when it's not easy. And I'm 54 years old and it still hurts. I find my happiest place when I'm hunting these old whitetails and I'm in the mountains where my dad taught me how to log, that kind of thing. Like, that's where it comes from.
I don't have any words. I really don't.
Ooh.
That's truly what drives you. That's amazing. God rest his soul. That's that's I've never been lost for words, honestly, Troy.
No,
that's
that's
amazing.
I don't want to lie. I'm just telling you the truth, guys.
Yeah.
It's where my heart. It's where my heart is. And I'm a God fearing man. It's where I feel closest to the Lord too.
Mm-hmm. And we ask this question for a reason, right? So we ask everybody this question because everybody has their own things that they deal with on the daily, their own things that drive them and get them in the woods, and it's just amazing to hear all the different stories, and that's probably one of the most touching ones that we've ever heard. I've never been left without words, and it's what keeps you going, Troy. We appreciate it. We really do. It's incredible.
I appreciate you guys. You guys are super good guys. I can just tell from talking to you and listening to your other stuff. Just thank you for having me on. And like I said, if I'm dead tomorrow, if I'm gone tomorrow, because I've lived the life of knowing that you can be gone at any day, I just hope that my legacy is Yeah, he was a killing son of a gun, but he also cared about helping people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I care about.
That's awesome. Troy, can you tell everybody where they can find you, man?
My favorite place to talk whitetails with anybody is Instagram, MTN_man, Mountain Man 33. 33 stands for the number I always wore in football and how old Jesus Christ was when he got crucified. We're all going to come and go on this earth and not be here a long, long time. I learned that through my father's life. So I just truly try. I make a lot of mistakes. I'm not a perfect person by any means, but I truly care about people going out, be yourself. Please just think for yourself, be happy with what blessings you have, and learn everything you can from people, but also learn on your own. And talk to me on Instagram, guys. I'll talk to anybody, any chance I get. I'll always get back to people. Yeah. And then, guys, I would like to say I've spent a lot of years working with the Lone Wolf Custom Gear team. I actually do work for Andre now. If you get a chance, check out Lone Wolf Custom Gear. I believe Andre DeQuisto's just an unbelievable pioneer in the world of whitetails. I call him the godfather and of whitetails. And it's because that guy changed my game in the 1990s when I finally could get a hold of a tree stand that didn't make any noise and that I could pack anywhere in the mountains. So Lone Wolf Custom Gear, we do film whitetail addictions. Wonderful guys, some of the best guys in the world. Mm-hmm. Seriously. I've met the best people in the world through the whitetail world. If it wasn't for whitetails, I wouldn't have met you guys and a lot of people. So Whitetail Addictions, Lone Wolf Custom Gear, Mountain Man 33 on Instagram. I'll do anything I can to help. And I do have a lot of people reach out to me. So be patient with me if I don't get back to you instantly, but I try with everybody.
Awesome, Troy. We really appreciate you jumping on with us, man. It's been a great time. We've had a lot of fun times, learned a ton from you, man. Hopefully it won't be the last time we hear you here. And for everybody else, thanks for taking the ride right here